Welcome back, everyone, to another special edition episode of Silver Cosmo Movie
Pew,
Reviews.
pew, yeah, here we go.
We got
Hey, it's your Starship Captain, Chris with a K, direct from the Delta Quadrant, walking the sands of Arrakis.
you almost
And
had
ready
me
for
there.
I know I
You
messed
almost
that
had
one up a
me
little
there.
bit.
Okay, I'm
I'm still working those through. Marquez is still the beast at it, you know.
He is.
I got to
He
give
is.
him the props on it, so I'm working on this. And of
I'm-
course, we have our host with the most over here, Mr. Carlos.
It's me, you guys. It's me. Shut it down. It is me. Okay, I'm still working on my intro, so just bear with me, okay? So today we're going to do the part 2 version of Dune. Now, like I said, the movie's about to come out on Blu-ray. I think it's the what I think it's the 21st.
I haven't checked that.
It's this month in January.
I know it's sooner than normal would have been, like with pre-COVID theater releases. I'm still trying to figure out the time. You know, they used to be almost like a 6-month. You could kind of count on it. The movie would release in theater 6 months later. Your Blu-rays drop. 6 months later it hits your streaming services or whatever. Now that all that seems sped up and it seems like everyone's still trying to figure out that timeline to, get their money. So I'm not there yet. I haven't figured it out, but I do think that one is coming out here quick.
Indeed. So like I said, this is part 2 of Dune. So if you missed part 1 of the breakup of Dune, follow us on Spotify, iTunes, YouTube. Also on our webpage, we are finally under construction on that, but it's almost done. It's razorcutinfo.wixsite.com/RCI 2021. So there we're going to have exclusive coupons. First things, if you mention the podcast as well, there is going to be discounts as well. So hey, follow it in. We're going to also have merchandise pretty soon. So there's going to be a lot of things on there.
And you can link all the links for all the various streaming services that these are available on are right there. So fingertips, hit that website. You click on your Spotify link, your YouTube link, whichever suits your preference. Get over there and hit it.
Indeed. And also, Chris, we got to put it out there. We're going to have the new shows coming out this month. We have The Cutting Crew is back.
Oh, my heart longs for that one. It's so much fun.
Also, we have a new show called Packs and Stacks for all our bodybuilder, fitness,
It's that time of year too, man. Let's get fit. Turn over that new leaf, lose a couple inches around the waist, put a couple inches around the triceps and biceps.
I'm just going to get a size small shirt and just look buff. That's what I'm going to do. But also, we also have sports, fellas. Now, remember, we are getting ready to get into the NFL playoff season right now. So right now, this is, as we speak, there are some games that are going to be concluding. So follow us, this special edition starting on Wednesday. We're going to be speaking about the teams that qualified for the playoffs. Yeah.
And we've got to be hitting some college basketball coming up, and right, so a little NBA is right here. We're starting to get in the midst of that, so start touching on some of that stuff too, right?
Indeed. And now the last but not least, we have our Wichita Vice is going to be coming right now. We did the one previously on the Sinister Six. So get ready for the next one. We're not going to reveal that yet. You'll have to wait and find out. So let's go ahead and dive in real quick. Let's give a quick pause and thank you to our following sponsors.
It's Chris with a K coming at you to let you know about a couple of my favorite podcasts, Silver Cosmos Movie Review and Wichita Vice. Join us in Silver Cosmos as we go in-depth analysis and galaxy-expanding reviews, and also Wichita Vice as we dig deep into all of our favorite comic book and sci-fi characters and storylines. Again, that's Silver Cosmos Movie Review and Wichita Vice.
All right, Chris. So we're going to start this off. So today we're going to break up a little bit the houses. We're going to talk about the groups of the houses as a whole. Mm-hmm. So to make sure we break this down for everyone. So if you've not seen the movie, check it out. If you've seen the movie and for some reason you're still confused, because I would still be confused because it's so much, it's vast, read the book. If you read the book and you're still confused, let's break it down even further. Follow our show. We'll talk about it. And last but not least, if you're
comments.
if you're even confused from the show itself, do your homework. We're going to leave everything out for you. Please. It took me a while to understand Dune, and I'm still learning things. But you know what?
There's so much. It's such
I have grown to appreciate Chris, and like I said, I thank you. I thank David for always helping me out understanding these characters. So let's go ahead. Let's go for it.
I want to give a shout out to Dave as well. He's the one that got me into the whole Dune series, and definitely an expert. If we can ever get some of his time, I think that'd be worthwhile.
We're calling you out, David. We're calling you out. But definitely, we want to do a quick shout out, real quick, before we get really started. I want to say thank you to the people behind the scenes. I got my niece in the house, Esme. She's here. She's learning a little bit. We got Eric and Powell. Thank you so much for the things that you guys do. I want to also I want to thank Andrew for helping us out with the technicalities and just being supportive. Also, Leo, Tim, thank you for believing in what we're doing. To the audience, thank you so much for just tuning in. And also, I want to thank some special people that I'm working around with. So I thank my parents. Thank you. I thank my brother and sister, especially my brother. I want to say thank you, Aaron, for just inspiring me to listen, watch sci-fi. You really started that. You started that spark. You know what I'm saying? You just started that spark. You Frankenstein. You created something, and now I just can't stop. I just keep loving these sports, loving the sports. I was talking about sports. I'm talking about sci-fi movies, shows. But also, I want to thank also some real special dear people, especially my friend Marie out in California. Hope she's doing well. Thank you very much. I also want to thank our friends over there in Vegas. Thank you, Brandon. Thank you, Yoli. Also, Chris, I want to say that I'm very thankful for the people that I'm associated with. This goes out to my good friend Angelica. Thank you, Yasmin. Thank you, Kyle. Thank you guys for being great to me. I appreciate your guys' friendship. And Carissa, my good friend Carissa, I pick on her a lot because in sports she likes the Patriots, and I always pick on her. So, but this goes out to you guys and to all the friends and family. So let's go. All right, so check it out, Chris. Now we're gonna break it down. The last episode we talked about what's going on, but we're gonna dive in a little bit about the heart. This is the heart. This is the heart of Dune. So if you can catch what's going on here, it's gonna get easier. So let's start off with the houses, the noble houses.
Well, and just before we get into the specific ones, just a quick note that essentially this empire is run by the emperor and is one power. Kind of think of it like the American government. You got the president, the Congress, and the judicial system. Well, in this empire, you have the emperor and what's called the Landsraad, which is essentially all the majority houses. Now, the houses we're focused on for this main Dune is the Atreides and Harkonnens, and they're two of those Landsraad, as it's described in the book. And then you have minor houses that go along with that. So those would be like your Congress, so to speak. And then judicial system really would probably fall to like maybe the Spice Guild or something along that, somewhere in that area. But for the houses, essentially like your Congress or the governing populace is the representatives are these leaders of the houses. And so
all right, well, first up we have the House of Atreides of Caladan. So Chris, can you explain a little bit about the House of Atreides?
Yeah, it's really cool. Kind of so the majority of pretty much the way these major houses existed were from as we described it a little bit in the previous podcast, the Butlerian Jihad, which was the war against artificial intelligence. So the people that led humanity through that became essentially the leaders of the empire from there on out. House Corrin, we'll get to him, the Padishah Empire. He was the leader of that faction during the Butlerian Jihad. House Atreides was actually one of the main guys in that as well. And they're directly aligned with some of the great Greek. They've said to come straight from Atreus and King Agamemnon. For those history buffs out there, he was a Greek war king, great king in ancient Greece. And so that bloodline essentially travels down through tens of thousands of years through the Atreides bloodline, and they're the heroes. I mean, they're the people everyone wants to be around. And they just keep getting greater. They're just more and more loved and respected by their people, They and in turn, and it's because their people love and respect them because they love and respect the people. They love and respect the land. That's what their family is about: is respect and giving and taking care of all the things they've been given domain over. So that's kind of the Atreides in a nutshell. Leto is a perfect example. Leto the First, the father of Paul in the Dune movie and book, obviously. He's just really that powerful. And I thought Oscar Isaac in the movie just portrayed that, had that emanating, I want to follow you. Like, you're obviously a great leader and a great person. Like, you're going to make the right decision, so I want to follow you. And that's what Leto was. And Paul, obviously, that's passed down to Paul, which is why Lady Jessica has a son, because she believes that Leto, that bloodline, is so clean and pure and strong that they can handle those powers that the Bene Gesserit wield.
And we will talk a little bit more about the Bene Gesserit here shortly. So with the characters there in Caladan, we have some memorable characters, especially in the movie. So comparing the 84, was it 84 or 85?
84.
84, and then also the new one, the one that just came out, was Paul portrayed closer to the book, the new movie or the old movie?
I would say the new one. The new one, he's much well, and he's got there's a younger feel about the new one. I felt like the old Kyle MacLachlan felt a little more too mature, like he was more of a 20-something, and Timothy Chalamet is well, I guess he's a young 20-something, but I don't know, he fit that mid-teenager role a little bit better, it felt like. And the movie from the current movie was a little more accurate. I really liked that they had the stuff with Caladan, which the old one didn't have. So you didn't get that contrast of where they were coming from. And I thought the new movie they really spent a lot of time showing and that was one of the things that the Atreides had, was the beauty and power of the water of Caladan and how they used that to their benefit and, became powerful through that course, which in the galaxy at the time, the real power is melange. And so how do you make, well, we've got fish or spice. Which one do you want?
I'll saute you with some melange on the fish.
Right, exactly.
Now, okay, so for the audience and the viewers, just so make sure they don't get lost here.
We'll try.
What makes them so unique in the Dune universe? We know already what Paul is to be, but let's just break it down to Leto. Does Leto serve a purpose? Because we know already that the Bene Gesserit program, what they do, and we're going to talk about that here shortly, but Lady Jessica is a Bene Gesserit. She was trained, and she got with Leto. They never got married, and he bore her a child, which is Paul. Paul has already unique set of skills, set of powers, because his mother is a Bene Gesserit.
Well, and trains him in that methodology as well. Like, it takes training to be able to do, like, he would have those powers, but to be able to actually tap into, like, it shows in the movie, like, him trying to use the voice and then eventually figuring it out. And he has the power all along, but it takes training, just like Star Wars Jedis. They have the Force. Yes, Anakin had the Force, but to be able to use that Force, he had to train. So.
Okay, and we know already that Star Wars, and also, and I still think like Game of Thrones, they used the lore of Dune, the Dune universe, because Frank Herbert wrote something back in 1965. He wrote this book, and a lot of people that wrote it have come. I think they've gotten traces from it, especially like in Game of Thrones, how they have their houses and they're all fighting for power here and there. It's kind of like the same thing here. But
yeah, I mean, the Dune version is more space oriented but yeah, you're right with the various, because that's really, I mean, the crux of Dune, the especially the early Dune books, is the political things going on until the Atreides have really done a lot of control adaptations later on in the stories, do they really start to have any freedom? The whole time they're just fighting all these, like, in this first one, it's this battle with the Sardaukar army that's getting raised up by this behind the scenes stuff with Harkonnens. So this is where we're at right now, and there's so much of the political things going on, which is great because it's also, I mean, that's like a tale of time. Like, you can look literally any time in human history and be like, oh, in that ancient Greek court there was these political things going on. Oh, in that medieval in that 1500s European court, these things were, people were trying to pull strings behind the scenes. So I think that's one of the things that makes the Dune story such a well-traveled story, is that the things that he's really hitting on, the underlying points, are so time-tested and always a part of humans.
Gotcha. So speaking of that, now we're going to move over to the House Harkonnen of Giedi Prime. So in the movie, that was well portrayed. I thought he scared
Absolutely.
me. Batista did a great job. Also, how you say his name? Skarsgård? Skarsgård. He portrayed the Baron very well.
An amazing job.
When I read the book, Chris, the Baron, this guy is
sadistic,
manipulative. He's devilish. But the guy knows how to manipulate people. He can catch you at your weakest. Take that as an advantage. So you have to suit him well.
Well, and he's always thinking 3 steps ahead. I mean, he's not relaxing. He's just thinking 3 steps ahead. More power, more money, more power, more money.
Now, for the people who have watched the old version and then this new version, there is a big contrast. The first version, the guy looked disgusting. I mean,
well, I said it in the last one. Garbage Pail Kids is what I think of.
He looked very disgusting. And then the one that we just watched,
well, to a campy level, like overly done. Like, it's it's like those B horror movies that are really more funny than they are scary because it's just so over the top. Like, okay, I get being gross and whatever, but to be that far, like, come on, you have eyes in your head and a mirror in front of you. You know what you look like. Like, come on, man.
I still
but the
look
new one,
sexy.
That new one, it's not a gross. It's that where he rises up and he's this 10, 12 foot tall being and he's a hulking body at the top, but this like almost like a Slender Man kind of look to him, like very menacing and ominous. You're not going, oh, that's gross. You're like, oh, that dude is gonna just devour me if I take the wrong step.
Well, speak a little bit more about the plan of Giedi Prime, Chris.
Well, in Giedi Prime, I thought the movie did a great job also in showing that contrast between Caladan and where the Atreides family came from, the beautiful water nature of Caladan, and then that super industrial, just soot-covered, everything's metal, and that's the whole Harkonnen thing. Like, they came, so I was just saying with the Atreides and Corinth, the Emperor, how they were heroes in the Butlerian Jihad. Well, the Harkonnens were not. They were a great family at the time. They were part of the group that was going to save everybody, but they bugged out. They took off. They took the cowards away. So it's how everyone fought. So they became a minor house after the war was won, and through manipulation and strategy and things like that, just backdoor weaseling in, they became a major house eventually. There's this whole whale fur trade thing is how they made their original money, and then they took over Arrakis. And once they took over Arrakis, they were so shady that it was a done deal. I mean, they were shooting the Emperor his payoff so he wouldn't raise a fuss about what they were doing, and keeping the market tight so that rates were up, but then skimming a bunch off the top so that they had plenty in reserve. So if anything ever happened, they were still set and didn't have to worry if they lost control of Arrakis, they'd be fine for a while. So they were just shady, underhanded all the time.
So explain to me this. In the movie, we see that Batista portrayed the Beast Raban, and then also
who's the
We have not
nephew.
seen now. What's the guy's name? The one that Sting portrayed.
He was the Mentat for. We did see Peter.
Well, the 84
DeVries.
Sting is.
He plays Peter DeVries,
Okay.
the Mentat for the Harkonnen family, which is what was so weird about that character. It's not. He shouldn't be the one fighting the fights like Beast Raban was. I thought he played Peter DeVries.
No, Sting play. He's related to the. He's a
plays
Harkonnen.
He plays one of the nephews.
Yes.
See, it's been so long since I saw the '84 version.
Oh, what is his name? We came to a. No, Faid Rutha.
So he was
Fade Rutha. Fade.
So in the
Yeah.
book, he's who takes. Well, we don't want to get to that because that's going to be second movie stuff. I think he's one of the nephews. He's the Beast's younger, more sensible brother, I would say.
But he's devilish himself.
Yes, but he's not. The Beast is the Beast. Like, he's just a mad dog. Ready
Did you
to
see how when they in the movie, the way Batista was portrayed when the what's it called, the Atreides, when they were all surrounded, they were surrendered, and he's just chopping their heads off, chopping them each single. I'm like, oh my gosh, this guy's crazy.
And I think he's going to be a lot more in the second one because he's the one in charge of their slave planet, and a lot of the Atreides that lived through that battle wind up there. So like Gurney Halleck, Josh Brolin's character, I think is going to come about over there because he has a big, there's a big storyline. That's the thing that one of the things that made Atreides so great, and what made the Emperor afraid of him, of that house, which made the Emperor result in, and I'm maybe jumping the gun a little bit, but into the back deal with the Harkonnens to kind of set up the Atreides. Was because like the Atreides have the greatest swordmaster in the galaxy, Duncan Idaho. They have the greatest war strategist in the galaxy, Gurney Halleck. They have the greatest Mentat in the galaxy. And all these people aren't there because, and they're not the greatest because they were forced by the Atreides. They're all with the Atreides because they love the Atreides. And that's what's got the Emperor riled up. And so that's why starts the whole thing with the Harkonnens the Harkonnens just hate the Atreides. They just like good versus evil. Like, well, you're good and I'm evil, so I hate you, type of deal. That's the Harkonnens look at it.
Now the betrayal in the new movie that we're gonna just break it down, the 2021 and then the 84 movie. So the Baron, we know the Baron he lusts for power. He's taking advantage of the fact that he's got someone that's backing him up. This is a huge ally. And so in the movie, you guys see that he's in conspiracy with
the Emperor. And it's not even that he's being backed up. Like the Emperor's sending his army, which is his face there now. It's not some behind the scenes anymore. And that's the big deal. Like that's in the political sense, you know what I mean? Like now all the other house owners are like, oh, the Emperor is that tight with the Harkonnens. Like they have that much pull with him. So that starts to scare, like, and that's part of this political thing that eventually keeps unraveling. Well, it would if Paul didn't do what he is about to do or begins to do at the end of the movie, which is to come into his power and begin to start seeing everything. And he really does. Like we got to see the back and forth with the Emperor and the Harkonnen family as that transpires, but the Atreides doesn't. Rest of the galaxy didn't see it, but Paul, because of the spice, is starting.
And that's why I encourage the audience and the people who are listening to our show, take the time, read the book. You guys, if you love sci-fi, you like political intriguingness, you like the fact of the power and also just the simple fact of the things that are going on right now and that's going on today.
Oh yeah.
Dune is the book. I'm telling you guys, I thought I was intimidated by the book at first because I was like, that's just so much information. I'm going to get lost. It's going to get boring.
Well, I mean,
the moment I got in touch with the book, and then also when I started keep going on the book, and then I listened to the audio book, I realized I am hooked on this book. So indeed,
Yeah.
you guys, you know already the core of Dune. We know already is there's a faction that's going on. There's a war broiling between two houses, and we have the Emperor behind the scenes stirring this up, taking an advantage of the jealousy of the Emperor. So now let's go ahead and
the Harkonnens are essentially taking
advantage of it. So let's go ahead.
Which is that master manipulator that Vladimir is. Like you were saying, like he just sees what that person and just nails him on it.
And let's go ahead. Let's give them the platform here. So we're going to talk about the house, Carino. Now I believe it's called Catan, the planet of Catan. Now they are originating there. They also have another planet that you saw in the movie in the 2021, Salusa Secundus. Now let's talk about a little bit about the Emperor and his house.
Well, and I think they have a few planets themselves. Like those are the ones that we visit the most. But I think they have a few that they reside in because I mean they're the Emperor. Yeah, you can't let the Emperor just go away with just 2 planets. But those are the 2 that they focus on mostly. And I don't want to get to what happens at the end of the book. So, but he's where we catch up. So I was saying that the Corrine family was essentially the leader of the heroes of the Butlerian Jihad, and very well respected by all the people at the time, and became the Empire. And so now where we're at that is 10,000 years later, at the basic 10,100 years later, 150 years later, at the beginning of the book, Dune. And now we're with the 81st emperor of that line. And his name is Shaddam of the Golden Lion Throne. And he has a wife who is a Bene Gesserit, but they never say what level she is, so she's probably pretty high up there. And he's got several daughters with her because Bene Gesserit only do daughters.
Why is that, Chris?
That has to do with the thing that they're afraid that Paul's going to be when they're testing him in the movie, which is called the Quisic Haderach. Various pronunciations depending on your region, but that's how I say it. And he's essentially can see past, present, future, like he's omniscient. They call it prescience is what they call it, where so Bene Gesserit, I don't know how far we want to go into this, but they have an ability to see their past lives and almost visit with the time, like visit with those memories, kind of, so to speak. The women do. And the Quisic Haderach can do that, but they can also see forward on multiple timelines. They can say, okay, if I do this, what's almost like Doctor Strange and the Eye of Agamemnon. So, so that's their fear. It's their fear is that someone's going to come around and be that and take away their power a little bit, or make them then submit, because right now they're essentially at the height, they're near the height of their power in both political and just strength and control.
So in the movie, when one of the mentats of the Harkonnens, what's his name again?
Peter de Vries, I think is how it's pronounced.
When he came in and he was visiting Salusa Secundus, and you saw all those troops there, they looked very menacing.
Oh yeah, they're the fiercest in the.
So when he was speaking to them, the Remain leader reports to the Emperor. So tell me, what is so special about that planet? Why do the Koreans have so much influence in that planet?
It's just it's kind of a prison planet for it's their personal army. It's where their army. So like the Harkonnens, they have a slave army that they have, but then also mostly mercenaries. So they're, that's where their army, not a lot of loyalty there, mercenaries. I mean, and slaves are, if they can run, they're going to run. Of course, the Atreides have their great family army, which is all volunteer and loves them to death. Well, the emperor who is got to be able to regulate all over the galaxy, has his own personal army. It's the Sardaukar from this prison planet, and it's just a hellhole, really. I mean, It's volcanoes. It's hot. It's desolate. Nothing really lives there.
It looked very gray in the movie.
That's because of the. I mean, in the book, it's described with a lot of like volcanic and ash, so that a very ashy atmosphere is going to give you a very gray look. Not a lot of sunlight penetrating the ash, and it's survival of the fittest. Like and through that, think of almost like an army boot camp. Like they break them down to nothing and build them up and say, you were nothing and now everything you have is the emperor. So who are you going to fight for? The empire, and so it just builds this immense loyalty. They're not going to be, a few coins isn't going to get them off the emperor's line, so.
So in the 84 version, the house, they showed, there's one thing that was different between the 2021 movie and the 84. The 84, you saw pieces of the book that was not shown yet in this new movie, especially when the emperor was talking about when he was in his palace.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't talk a lot about his planet. Now, I want to know is, for the house, especially the daughters, we know Princess Erlyn. If you read the book, she is a known character. She appears in a couple of the books.
There's a lot of excerpts from her too.
So, especially with the daughters and coming from that house, what important part is she playing in the going forward in the books?
We've got, again, it's all that political, and there's a lot of, especially the Bene Gesserit did this too, a lot of intermarrying between the houses, to just like they used to do in ancient times. It's kind of what fits that great Game of Thrones, because these are all houses, and it's kind of that lordship, baron, all that stuff. So everyone's trying to increase their power through alliances, including the Bene Gesserit, and they're all trying to coordinate alliances really and increase their house's standing, power, wealth, and all that stuff as they go. And so the daughters, if you've got 4 daughters, now one of those can be married off to, hey, look, House Atreides, you're a super strong house, and you've got a son, and I've got a daughter. I think we could be friends. And so, you just have that standard kind of political, again, it's that thing that stands the test of time. Alliances and, trying to get power is a standard trope there. So,
all right. So what we're going to do is on the next episode, we're going to break down the characters of themselves. So if you were interested in the Sardaukar, which they were a phenomenal force, that we will talk about them on the next episode. And so what we'll do is we'll go more in depth on them. So last but not least, let's talk about the Fremen of Arrakis.
Yeah.
So can you explain a little bit about the Fremen? The Fremen are popular characters,
mm-hmm.
and we saw Chani, that was portrayed by Zendaya in the new one, and I don't remember what's the girl's name in the 84 version, but let's talk a little about the Fremen of Arrakis. We know they're not from Arrakis
originally, but they've been there for thousands of years.
So tell me a little bit about them.
Indigenous. They're essentially the indigenous tribe, free tribes. Some people have called them sand pirates. They're the remnants of the Zen-Sunni wanderers. If anyone wants to get into the prequel stuff of where they came from, but essentially, so they're a warrior tribe that has been enveloped in spice for generations. And so all these things that spice gives that the galaxy uses spice for, to lengthen life, to promote beauty, strength, health, to be able to have essentially acid trips on for the Bene Gesserit. They have that stuff naturally, and so their bodies have become stronger. They almost have like a sixth sense of while fighting, and the dangers of Dune itself, to be able to live and survive in such harsh conditions, like we were just talking about the Sardaukar. One of the reasons they have that planet, and they use that planet and not a paradise like Caladan for their army, is harsh circumstances create strong fighters and strong survivors. And so that's why they're using, the Fremen are such fierce warriors. up till fighting Fremen, the Sardaukar are considered the greatest warriors in the galaxy, and the Fremen go through them like butter, hot knife through butter, just tears right through them. And so they are this extraordinarily strong, but so mysterious. Nobody knows hardly anything about them. They kind of just know they exist as far as the people, the powers that be. And as far as they're concerned, they're just a tribe that needs to be pushed off to the side so, the galaxy can get what they want. Because that's how people in power think.
So in the movie itself, we see Stillgar is the main character. Stillgar is the leader.
Well, he
right?
is.
And in the books, there's multiple tribes of Fremen.
Right.
So,
he becomes kind of, in the books, he's kind of the spokesman towards those tribes. And from the get-go becomes Paul's most adorant fan, I guess. I don't know, kind of really is his most fiercely loyal Freeman. But the Freemen also, so they've been in this tribal setting for so long. The Bene Gesserit, hundreds, maybe thousands of years, no one knows exactly when, they would go around to new tribes, new peoples, uneducated peoples, and using their mystical powers like the voice, and there's some other tricks and things they know how to do to set up this mythology so that if they ever came back, they would have someone to help them. If they ever came back, or if they ever found the Kwisatz Haderach, people be ready to serve. And so they set this up, and Paul and Jessica start to learn this in the movie. They start to see that this has happened. Oh, wait, these people have heard of the powers that happen here, so they're going to be able to take us in. But that also is what begins the religion of the Fremen. And we all know fighting for money is one thing, but fighting for something you truly believe in, the American Revolution, freedom, throughout history we can say, oh, look, these people weren't going to win, but they were actually fighting for, fiercely fighting for what they believed in. And so this begins to become a thing with the Fremen under Paul, as we see him at the end of the movie. The big scene is him beating the Fremen warrior, who, again, they saw through the strongest warriors in the galaxy.
So people have asked, especially with their suits, can you elaborate a little bit about the suits, why they had those things in their nose? I get that question a lot. Can you help out the audience on that one?
Yeah, so those are called Stillsuits. And so Arrakis is a complete desert world. There's no polar ice caps. There's no lakes. Every drop of water has to be harvested almost through the air in most instances. And so in order to help people can conserve their water, they have these suits that are essentially keep you protected from all outside occurrences of heat or wind or anything, to take away the moisture from your sweat. And the suit itself filters all, let me repeat that, all body fluids, so that it can then be drained. It filters out all body fluids, sweat, any moisture that it can get. It filters that out.
Even armpit
sweat, urine, all the moisture that comes out of our body, it pulls that out and filters it, and then replenish it. Like gives you there's a little tube that they can then also drink from that gets it. So like the tube in the nose is actually picking up vapor from exhaling, and they have a little tube that they pull out to drink from to get a mouthful of water if they need it, because water is, it's the big, it's big, more than gold and diamonds on Arrakis. So when they do things like spit on the ground, that's giving your water. And they get into, and they'll probably get into this more in the next movie, because we're gonna see Paul and Jessica start living with the Fremen, and they reduce their dead people they pull out all the water of their body after they've passed. Like that, there's a big ceremony that they do, that they go through and extract all the water, and it's the water of life. Like water is life. It's a good metaphor. We all need water. So they're very, very much about the water, and that's what the suits are. The suits are to conserve water to the utmost level. There's literally no water. Not even your sweat is wasted from the desert.
All right, that's pretty much well established there. So now we know about the planets, and we know about the houses and the people. Now, like I said, the next episode we will talk about the factions. We will talk about the people in general. We're going to learn more about the Mentats. We're going to learn more about the Sardaukar, also the Bene Gesserits in depth. So there's going to be a lot of the character building we're going to talk about. So let's move on over to the scheme of things, so we get an idea why these things are happening. So the question number one is, Chris, the Emperor Shaddam IV, what is his scheme with the Baron Harkonnen?
Well, they're trying to oust the Atreides. They want to take out House Atreides. Want him to be no more. He's jealous. Wants to get rid of him. And Harkonnens hate the Atreides, as we've said. I mean, they just hate him. Whatever they can do to destroy him any way, shape, or form. So, like we were saying early, it became down to Vladimir Harkonnen, the leader, the Baron, found out that the Emperor was getting jealous of the favor that the rest of the Landsraad, the other houses in the Empire, were the favor they were showing Atreides. And not only them, but the people like the Swordmasters and all that, congregating towards Atreides. So that jealousy.
I see, and jealousy kills.
Hey,
it kills.
The devil's looking for it, man.
And so the Baron takes advantage of the jealous man of the Emperor, and we know in the books, we know already. I don't know if they elaborate in the movie, but in the book, the Emperor is related to Leto. The families are they're related. So
well, you got to figure after 10,000 years, they've all been marrying, intermingling their marriages. And then you also have the Bene Gesserit working their breeding programs behind that, which I know we'll get to. But there's a lot of sibling, they're 2-3 cousins.
All right. Well, let's expand on that. So the question I was going to ask is the Bene Gesserit breeding program. What is this deal about selecting for the prophecy? So could you expand a little bit on that?
Yeah, they were, like we were saying with Paul, they're looking for what's called they call it the Kwisatz Haderach, and he's essentially their version of a Messiah, because he's the one that's going to lead humanity, according to their beliefs, into the great future of humanity and not have us all destroyed as we are wont to do. And so that's what they're trying to breed, the perfect human male, to be able to then take on their powers, those powers that I was saying, where they can see the past lives, and then be able to handle the powers of seeing the future. And there's actually, Paul isn't the first person that they've even thought. There's been other ones that they've thought that have passed tests, but something always goes eventually wrong. They go a little crazy, use their powers, or they get assassinated. Because that's going on all over. Everyone's assassinating. That's why they have those little force fields. But, I mean, that's essentially, they're trying to breed the perfect. So they're like, oh, that's a good person. That's a good person. Or that's a good family line. This is a good family line. Let's put them together, see what happens. And, of course, we all know that just because two people are good doesn't mean the third one, they're like 1 + 1 doesn't always equal 2 when it comes to having kids.
So especially in the movie, it was kind of very dark, very secretive when you watched the Bene Gesserits when they were coming down to Caladan, and just watch. They're just in this black veil. They're just serious.
Well, and they're trying to keep that mystical witch presence. Like, they want people to be afraid of them, and they want that power. Like, that's the beginning of their power. The more people are worry of them or a little afraid of them, they can use that.
Now, in the movie, and it also relates in the book, Jessica's teacher, she's well aware of what's going on behind the scenes. Am I right?
With the Emperor. and Harkonnen. Yes, there's some secret because the a little bit of a spoiler alert, but I think they get into it a little bit in the movie. The Reverend Mother, Jessica's mentor or what teacher, or whatever, that they've known about Paul his whole life. I mean, there's no keeping secrets from him, and they are not happy that they refer to you went against the the sisterhood's desire, rules, and had a son. Like, that's against our rules unless we say you're allowed to, and we didn't say you're allowed to. But she believed in Leto enough and his line that any offspring of his would be the right guy, essentially. And so they are very mysterious. That's, like I was saying, they go to tribal, when they show up on a planet and it's got tribal people, they begin this whole, we're witches and we have power and can help you and see the future and da-da-da. And they do have things where they're like, we see the future, but they don't. They just know the past well enough. You know what I mean? They know people well enough. Because especially when they've seen their past lives, they've like, oh, I've seen this type of person in this situation 100 times in my past lives, and they always act this way. So I know that this is how they're going to act. I can see it. Essentially call it future. So
all right, and that's good to know, because the Bene Gesserit are very unique in the book.
They are. I even think just from Frank Herbert's writings, I think that was his favorite characters to write about. They're almost on par with like Jedi as far as power type, like mystical power. Like the Jedi have the Force, and the Bene Gesserit don't have anything as specific as the Force, but they have things like the Voice, and they also have their feminine wiles that they're trained to master, as well as other types of. I mean, they're trained in various fighting methods that are very secret, and it's all very, like you're saying, like nobody knows necessarily what they even look like until you get, you're close enough to mingle with it.
Yeah, I don't want to hook up with the Bene Gesserit. No, thank you.
I don't know. Wait till you get to book 6 and see.
Okay, we'll see. But like I said, the next show that we will do, we will break down even further on the characters. So the last but not least, we have the House of Atreides. So what was the plan for Leto to send Duncan Idaho? So it's in the book, in the movie as well, to unite with the Fremen. So what was the big plan to get the Fremen to join the Atreides when they arrived to Arrakis?
I mean, I think that Leto saw. Well, he's all about the people, and he's like, well, these are the people of the planet. Why, the Harkonnens are fighting them. The enemy of our enemy. So I think there was a little connection there. Like, we don't, and he doesn't want to be the Harkonnens going anywhere. He doesn't want any semblance of their character upon him. So if they're fighting, I think this was a little, part of the rationale. Like, well, if they're fighting them, then we're going to try the opposite, and we're going to try to befriend them. And obviously, they've lived on this desolate planet for thousands of years. Maybe they know a little bit about how it works, because nobody else does. Out of thousands of years of having been mining on it, nobody still knows really how anything works there. And so I think, and he refers to how they used water, how they took Caladan and made the water power theirs, and he refers to trying to make the desert power their strength. And to do that, they have to know what the desert power is. I think that getting to know the Fremen, and again, I mean, it's not like he's going to get information from the Harkonnens. He's not going to get information from the Emperor. You know what I mean? And Dr. Liet Kynes is the Emperor's person. Not really going to get much information from him until, she starts opening up to Paul once she sees that he's actually one of the good ones. But so I think he sent Duncan Idaho just like, hey, let's be different. Let's, instead of starting out with swords in our hands, let's go out with open hands and try to work with these guys. And even taking out Paul's abilities, it was working. Like, before Paul was ever Paul and Jessica were anything. Well, I will say that, but I know, when she got off the plane, there was also there were obviously Fremen that were already like, oh, it's the one. You know what I mean? So I would say those were like the orthodox Fremen.
the different ones.
They're the hardcore.
All right. Well, hey, we will wrap this up on that. So like I said, we will have a part 3 of Dune as well. And if there's more questions, I want to give a quick referral and a shout out to our YouTubers, Nerd Cookies. Follow them as well. They did a great job on describing the houses as well. And also read the book. Do some research. Because like I said, this is an interesting book. This is something that you will be intrigued. And like if you're into sci-fi, this is definitely like the old school. So this is one.
And you won't be sad if you read it. You're not going to start reading it and be like, oh, that wasn't that. He writes it better than, I don't know. It just fits so well. It makes so much more sense.
Indeed.
So,
also we want to also say is we will be back to the other Silver Cosmo movie review shows. We will do a Matrix review. So on the next show, we will do the Matrix.
Are we going to hit all the Matrixes on
all
that?
The Matrixes.
All right,
we're going to knock them all out. And as well, we're going to do Big Trouble in Little China. So for the people that have not, for our new bloods, for the people that are a little bit younger, they're like, what is that? We're going to introduce some older movie generations, and we're going to also talk about upcoming movies. So please, if
call
you
them old, maybe classics,
yeah, the back in our day kind of thing. And also, do not forget we are launching the new episode of The Cutting Crew, and also we will do Packs and Stacks. And like I said, we will keep continuing the NFL playoffs through Sports Fellas, and last but not least, Wichita Vice. So, Chris, I want to say thank you again for your knowledge. Thanks to the audience and viewers. Is there anything you want to say before we go?
Oh, man, just shout out to everyone that's out there listening. Thanks for coming aboard with us.
Thank you guys very much. We look forward to seeing you in the next episode. We're out.